Kia ora tātou, welcome back to the Wargaming Den. Today's game is the second game in the Battle of Sangshak campaign, and it is following on from the first game. So the first battle involved the C Company of the 152nd Paras defending Hill 7378 against very strong Japanese attacks on the 19th of March 1944. This game is focused on events the following morning. Basically overnight, the British and Indian forces on the Badger Hill position nearby could hear the sounds of fighting, and in the morning Lieutenant Colonel Hopkinson of 152nd Battalion ordered A Company of the Mahratta Light Infantry under Major Holland to advance towards Hill 7378 to relieve the troops on that hill. Two heavily laden jeeps left Badger Hill about 6 AM heading towards the New Guinea corner, and the remainder of the company followed on foot. About 7 o'clock in the morning, the infantry arrived at a roadblock near New Guinea corner to find the jeeps shot up. Several bodies were visible, but no signs of any survivors. Major Holland immediately deployed his men and tried to push on to relieve the Paras on Hill 7378. So that's the combat that we're going to focus today's game on, and so it's happening around here, just between the Badger Hill position and Hill 7378. And for this game, I decided to increase the size of my forces. So I decided to run A Company as 3 separate platoons, each of 22 figures with a morale of 11. So there was a wee bit of downsizing, scaling the forces involved, but each platoon had an HQ with a 2-inch mortar, and they had 3 sections of 8 figures. And I included a light machine gun in each as well. So 8 and 9 platoons were the same as 7 platoon. And again, Japanese forces were scaled for this one. So I had a company HQ with a commander and 3 figures, 2 sniper teams. Basically gave snipers, but easier to hit, and they could add casualties to units as well. 2 medium machine guns, and then I had 2 platoons. Each was the same, based on a Japanese infantry platoon at the time. So they have 3 squads of 8 figures, including a light machine gun. And then the 4th squad in a Japanese infantry platoon was the Grenadier squad, and they had up to 3 knee mortars. I've included 2. Wanted to try out a wee bit more artillery fire in this one, but didn't want to go overboard. So each of the platoons had 34 figures and a morale of 17. Second platoon was exactly the same as the first one. So reasonable size forces, and hopefully it would make for a good game. Okay, a few special rules for this game. Firstly, Japanese forces begin dug in foxholes and prepared positions. Jungle, almost all the terrain on the table is considered jungle, but to keep things moving along, I decided not to have any movement penalty through the jungle. However, all shooting is considered versus soft cover. Maximum visibility for non-shooting enemies is 12 inches. Maximum range versus enemies that shot in their last turn is 18 inches. And also gave each section or squad a light machine gun team, which adds plus 1d6 to hit rolls. And they were factored into the points, and decided to do morale test by platoon. And snipers, I need to come up with some sniper rules, I've decided, but just decided to make them easier to hit. They add plus 1 to hit at all ranges. Okay, let's look at the initial Japanese position. So the British start 18 inches onto the table. Their 3 platoons are deployed, 1 on the road, the others on either side of it. Here's the roadblock here. Japanese 1 platoon was on one side of the road, 1 on the other, just to keep things simple. First squad in this sniper here. This is a hill. You can just see outlined here, machine gun nearby, knee mortars, and then 2nd and 3rd squad further back. And for the 2nd platoon, they had 2 squads forward, had sniper and MMG team covering the roadblock with the knee mortars, and again they had a third squad in reserve. So more forces on the table for this one, so let's see how the game unfolds. And just before we do begin, here's a quick view of the table. Gives you a bit of an idea of the terrain. From this view you can see that it's quite hilly. Here's the trek to New Guinea, corner through the middle, hills on either side, lots of jungle terrain. In real life there were 3 knolls on this hill leading up to hill 7378, and they were bitterly contested by the Japanese. But let's move on, have a look at turn number 1. Not a great deal of action on turn 1. I don't think the British could actually see anybody. They advanced with one section out wide, 2 others covering the middle with the light mortar and behind. Number 8 platoon advanced up the road with company HQ and behind, 1 squad on either side of, 1 section on either side of the road, and 7 platoon advanced through the jungle on the right hand flank. Again, wasn't able to see any of the Japanese. I think the Japanese may have opened up and done a casualty or 2 on one of the sections of 9 platoon, but not a great deal of combat on the first turn. Okay, turn 2, the Indians did 4 casualties on this Japanese squad. Dug in here, pretty much firing with everything they could. So a couple of squads, section here and 2 sections here. This section had taken a couple of casualties, I think by the looks of it, on turn 1 from the Japanese, and this section is just trying to move around the flank of the Japanese position. Not a great deal of firing on the other side though. So let's have a look at the 9 platoon on the Indian left flank, continuing to try and suppress this Japanese squad here. One of the sections has taken quite a few casualties. The light mortar is now in position. Another section is moving around to support, and one of the sections from 8 platoon is also moving over to support over here. On the other flank, the Indians continue to advance against the Japanese, and their light mortars are firing on this position. And here's a close-up. So a couple of casualties to this Japanese squad, and a lot of sections advancing up the hill here. 1, 2, 3, at least 4 or 5 sections coming directly up this hill here. So Japanese under a bit of pressure on that hill. Okay, and in response, this squad has moved from its positions in reserve, and it's coming forward to support the hard-pressed squads at the front. The medium machine gun has also turned to support the attack or the defense over here as well. So a bit of pressure coming on both flanks currently. Just a brief overview of the end of the Indian turn. So just try and put pressure on the Japanese there, and starting to make progress on this flank where they are definitely putting in a concerted effort to drive forward. Let's move on to the Japanese turn. And here is a bit of an overview of the turn 3. So 3 casualties there. The Indians are advancing against the first Japanese section on the right flank. Okay, so the Indians have cleared the Japanese from the first trench and are making progress. Japanese are sending forth reinforcements on the other flank. Indians have cleared out the medium machine gun and the sniper, and also close assaults have killed the Japanese on that position. So making progress on the right flank for the Indians especially. Turn 5 Japanese, no casualties here. On the other side, 8 platoon lost a section of men onto turn 6. Turn 6. The Indians on this side just did a couple of casualties. Most of their firing wasn't effective, but over here they charged up, drove back the company commander, didn't cause any casualties though, and also drove back the other Japanese squad, doing 4 casualties on them. So both of the Japanese companies are close to breaking, and some of the Indian ones aren't far off either. Japanese turn 6. Okay. Bottom of turn 6. 9 platoon took some more casualties and cannot advance any further. But on the other hill, the Indian troops are forcing the Japanese back. Turn 7, Indians are just holding on. 9 platoon is broken. One of the sections of 8 platoon is holding the ground there. On the other hill, they've taken another loss, so British are getting close, or Indians are getting close to being broken. But the Japanese not far off it either. Turn 8. Final turn, Indians swept up over the hill. A couple more casualties, broke the second Japanese platoon, and the Japanese survivors slunk back into the jungle. Victory to the Indians, just. And there we have it. Victory to the Indians, trying to relieve the troops on Hill 7378. In reality, though, a company of the Mahratta Light Infantry ran into heavy Japanese opposition as they tried to make their way up towards New Guinea. They managed to capture the first knoll and got partway up Hill 7378, could hear no sound of any survivors, and they were forced to pull back to the main position back at Badger Hill. So in reality, the attempt to relieve the paratroops ended in failure, and the paratroopers were either killed or captured, and they were overrun. And the survivors of the Mahrattas pulled back, as I said, to Badger Hill, and then later in the day they were ordered back to Sangshak itself. The British commanders had decided that their troops were too spread out and decided to concentrate their forces on Sangshak and form a defensive box there. And that's what's going to be the focus of the next battle in this series. And here we have a few of the sources that I used when doing research for this battle. A couple of really good YouTube presentations on the Battle of Sangshak on World War II TV. I highly recommend those. There's also the website of the 50th Parachute Brigade, and I thoroughly enjoyed Dave Ellison's book Fight Your Way Out, The Siege of Sangshak, which was released late last year and well worth a read. Highly recommend that one. So that's all for this week's game. I hope you enjoyed the battle report. Thoroughly enjoyed rapid fire rules. It was fast play, but it felt right. Sorry about the sound quality. My expensive camera has a problem picking up the internal motor. You can't hear it when you're recording, but it definitely picks it up when you're playing it back. So my apologies for that. I'll be trying to find a solution to that particular problem without success for a wee while now. Anyway, that's enough for today. So thank you for watching. Look forward to another battle report soon. But in the meantime, take care. Ka kite anō.